Thank you, Sean. So hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. Just to quickly introduce ourselves, Paxton, Dennis, and I are with you from Bose Professional. I look after our distributors in the Americas, and as Sean said, Paxton leads our sales engineering team, and Dennis Finn helps drive our business development efforts and activities. So we're delighted to be with you guys. And if you're new to us, Bose Professional is a division of Bose Corporation. Bose Professional offers solutions for commercial audio applications. Just some examples of those to help you understand what we do. We deliver solutions in audio solutions into restaurant, retail, hospitality, education, sports, performing arts, portable PA, and now, and this is what we're going to talk about, we offer solutions for the workspace, which we'll be discussing in just a moment. And within many of those segments, our offerings include speakers, amplifiers, DSP, and user interface. So that's a little bit about the bigger part of Bose Pro. And if you're interested in more information on us, you can visit our website at pro.bose.com. Make a key mental note here, it's not bose.com, it's pro.bose.com, and that will get you connected to everything we offer in the pro space. So let's get started. Today, you're going to receive an overview of our Bose Work solutions. Bose Work solutions bring the simplicity and clarity of Bose to conferencing applications. And those applications range from Huddle spaces to desktop and mobile conferencing to fully integrated systems for meeting rooms. But before we jump into the product side of this, let's pull back for a second and think about how the workplace has changed. And I thought about this the other day. My dad and my grandfather knew the workplace to be the office or the factory, and it was very simple, 9 to 5. Work started when you showed up and it ended when you left. But today, I think we all understand work is very, very different. So as you can see from the slide, we find ourselves working in many different environments. And those are all captured in that graphic. And it's with this in mind that Bose Work solutions offer the technology to benefit users in every workspace, in every way that we work today. And Bose Work solutions also complement our popular UC cloud services like Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and Zoom. So with that in mind, let's look at the three main categories of Bose Work. So we've broken this down into three core areas. So integrated meeting rooms, those are rooms where a system is fully integrated into the room. An all-in-one solution, like the video bar you see there, which is commonly found in Huddle spaces and medium-sized conference rooms. And then there's the desktop and mobile user. These people are very mobile. They could be in an open office environment, in the airport, in their car. That's what we mean by this mobile user. Today, specifically, we're going to focus quite a bit on the VB1. It's a product that's about to be released and represents really probably one of the broadest opportunities in the market for many integrators. So that's kind of an overview of the core categories, applications that Bose Work fits into. So we're going to get started with integrated meeting rooms. So next slide, Paxton. So what do we mean by integrated meeting rooms? Quite simply, this would be an example of that space. It's a large, formal space, fully integrated with technology where speakers are typically installed in the ceiling, amplifiers and DSP and racks, and then there is a pre-programmed user interface. So again, this is that integrated meeting room. This is sort of the highest state of the art of meeting spaces. So let's talk about what we have available within Bose Work for those spaces. So basically, for these spaces, Bose has partnered with Sennheiser to bring two best-in-class solutions for the medium to large meeting room. And in this example here, you see two solutions, the ES1 and the DS4 ceiling audio solutions. These are complete audio conference systems for integrated meeting rooms, combining the premium performance of Bose loudspeakers and the Sennheiser Team Connect 2 microphone, along with the amplifier and the DSP to deliver a high performance meeting experience. Again, they are complete room audio solutions and offer a quick deployment and configuration. So in these two systems, the ES1 and DS4, you'll notice a lot of similarities in the components. The difference lies in the speakers. The ES1 includes our EdgeMax EM180 speaker. This is a ceiling speaker that features phase guide technology. It's very, very unique, but it offers really some of the best performance for an integrated conference room. The DS4 is another option. In that case, we're using our DS2 in ceiling speakers, which are more of a standard configuration, standard technology speaker. Both of those will work in that integrated meeting space. And for more information, if you have those kinds of applications, a couple things you can do. You can go to pro.bose.com and examine the ES1 and DS4 a little bit more. You can also reach out to your ADI Pro AV sales rep as well. They can walk you through these differences. But we just want you to be aware if you get a call for that integrated meeting space, we make those solutions. They are Microsoft Teams certified, and we can give you more information. But today, what we really want to focus on is where the significant scope of opportunity is, and that's the video bar for huddle spaces in medium-sized rooms. So with that, I'm actually going to turn that over to Paxton, who will give you a really thorough walkthrough of the VB1, its applications, and the technology.
Thank you, John. So as Sean mentioned, my name is Paxton Laird. I am the manager of the sales engineering group for Bose Professional. And I'm going to give you an overview of the Video Bar VB1, as well as a couple of demonstrations. I'll have to forgive me, my informal meeting room for the day is my kitchen here. So it's about a representative of a small conference room. So with the current COVID environment, it's what we have to default to, unfortunately, for demonstrating this type of device, because our offices are quite locked down at the moment. The Video Bar is an all-in-one USB conferencing device, and it's really been designed to bring premium audio and video to those huddle rooms up through medium conference rooms. We, as Bose, started looking at this space a few years ago, and what we felt was really lacking was a device that really kind of checked all of the boxes that people were looking for. So we wanted to create an all-in-one device that really performed well in the small rooms, but also up to those 11-person medium conference rooms, and just kind of looked aesthetically like it should be in those higher end spaces as well when you're talking about a grade A conference room. So I'll take you through each one of these features as we go through the VB1, but our focus was, of course, first and foremost on the microphone and the camera. So ensuring that we had good microphone pickup in a medium-sized conference room, as well as a camera that was able to transition from the huddle space all the way up to the large room. Then, of course, we needed to ensure that there was good audio playback, a nice form factor, and really easy connectivity, right? Easy connectivity for the end user, and ease of setup as well as management for the IT professionals as well as for the integration company. So that was kind of our focus as we looked at getting into this all-in-one type solution. And again, the VB1 is a USB-based device, so you're connecting up to a user's computer. So first, just kind of talk about, or to further explain what we're talking about within this space. The VB1 is designed, again, for the huddle room up to medium conference room. The huddle room is a term that's been around for a while, and everybody kind of has their own definition for it. What we really mean when we say the huddle space is kind of that 3 to 6 person space. The emphasis being on the ease of use. So it's the space where you may have it scheduled, you may just walk in with a couple of people, set down technology, have your get together, easy remote connectivity, and then clean up and go, and then the space transitions to the next user. So it's the huddle space for Bose is really all about flexibility and ease of use. When we get up into the medium-sized room, that's the more traditional space, right? It might be a 20-foot deep room with 11 seats around a traditional conference room table. This was the space that has typically been either under outfitted with technology or in some cases not outfitted at all, because you were looking at doing an integrated solution which had a fairly high level of setup cost as well as a high level of complexity for the users. And so in many corporations, that size room was really set up in a minimalistic way, and the bigger money was spent on the slightly larger spaces. But from a participant perspective, it's always needed kind of that flexibility of the huddle space, and that's becoming even more so in the short term with COVID and the separation and the limitations on the number of people that can be fit into a room. So with that, as we look at the microphones and the camera, especially, I'm going to kind of focus on the extremes of the huddle space and then the medium-sized space. And when we talk about the microphones, they really were challenging in these medium-sized conference rooms for many of the video bar solutions that were available on the market. And the hallmark of the video bar is that single device that's mounted with the display and is kind of out of the way. And the thing that we found is that many devices required microphone extension, which removed the simplicity. It also moved the microphone to the middle of the room where we're getting table noise, increased installation cost, and just not an even experience as people were transitioning around the room. So with the VB1, we wanted to make sure that we solved that challenge. So we have 6 wideband microphones that are integrated into the VB1, and they're used together to form microphone beams. And we have narrow microphone beams that are able to pick up from about 20 feet away. And they also reduce the reverberation in the room. So by having narrow microphone beams, it really focuses on the person speaking, minimalizes the reflection, and ensures that we have nice, intelligible audio. These microphone beams can be configured in 2 different forms. One way is to have dynamic microphone beams, and we can form up to 4 dynamic microphone beams that are used to track around the room. So whoever the active talker is will have a microphone beam that will track to them wherever they are in the room. And then it does go through an automatic microphone mixer to ensure that anybody that's in the room is able to be heard and heard clearly. So really looking at minimizing that installation costs and maintaining the experience that we want from a video bar that's associated with the display. By using the narrow microphone beams, so they're about 15 degrees wide, we can also take advantage in these medium-sized rooms of the experience of somebody getting up and walking and starting to write on a whiteboard. And this is typical, right? Somebody gets up from the room, they go to the back, they start writing on the whiteboard. It's fine for the people in the room, but the far end participants have a really poor experience from that because they just can't be heard anymore. But because we have the narrow microphone beams from the front of the room, we're actually able to pick up the early reflections of the person speaking and still have nice, clear, intelligible audio, even when they're 15, 20 feet away from the video bar and talking to the back of the room. So 4 microphone beams that are able to dynamically track folks around the room. That's really ideal for those larger spaces where you have a little bit more flexibility in how you're working. As we look at the smaller spaces, the huddle space, a space like this one that we're showing in the image right now still kind of has the same requirement, right? People can move around a little bit, but it's more constrained. And huddle spaces are typically more open than a medium-sized room. It might be an open door, open frame, or an even open lounge space that's being used. So in a space like this, we're probably still going to be using dynamic microphone beams. And when you do that, we really want to make sure that we're eliminating any other noise that can come into the space. Open environments are great, they are collaborative, but you have all the downsides of that, which is really the people moving around you, speaking as they're passing by, and just having those side conversations. So with the VB1, we have 3 exclusion zones. 2 of them are associated with the front of the room. So we're basically shifting how close to the VB1, kind of in the camera view sense, people are being heard as they're walking up to the VB1. So this can be used to eliminate sounds from a door that's out at the front of the room, or to just ensure that people are only being heard clearly when they're in the camera. And then we have a third exclusion zone, which is dynamically placed. So you can pick which section of the room, such as in this example where we want to exclude the door that's at the end of the room and ensure that as people are going by, they're really not picked up clearly by the dynamic microphones. And what our testing has shown is that we can have about a 30 dB of reduction in a completely open space, and in a completely closed space, about a 6 dB reduction from that exclusion zone. So it's not going to completely eliminate it. It's not doing cancellation, but it is going to greatly reduce, especially the intelligibility of somebody walking by so that they're not interrupting the meeting. So that's associated with the dynamic microphone beams. But there's also this kind of meeting booth type space. It might be benches or chairs, but it's a small space. It's typically fairly open, but the seating is really confined. You can only have a few spaces that you'd be able to meet. And in this space, this is where the static microphone beams really are key. So we can have up to 4 static microphone beams, as few as 1. So if you had more of a telephone booth where you just had a single participant, a single static microphone beam could be used and ensure that only the area that people are sitting is going to be picked up from the microphones. And with those narrow microphone beams, it really works well to eliminate any other noise around. As people move out of the microphone or out of the seating area, they're not going to be picked up. And it's really the way to ensure the best coverage possible. So again, on the microphone side, it's really designed for up to 20 feet away with 4 dynamic or static microphone beams and those 3 exclusion zones. So I'm going to switch over here and just if you forgive me for just a second, I'm going to turn off my video. And then I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of what we are actually doing with those microphone beams, how they're working, as well as show you the software that we are utilizing with those microphones. So I'm going to share, I'm going to share with you the software configuration tool that we use to do this. And you should be seeing it now. So I'm going to put it into a full screen view. So this is the Bose Work configuration. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But it is how you can do one way to set up the VB1. What we're looking at right now is the microphone setup panel. So I'm going to set it into full screen mode here. So you should be able to see me clearly. John, are you still getting that video?
Yep, it's coming through.
Excellent.
I can see it.
Very good, thank you. So I'm going to get up and, try not to trip on my cords here, and walk around my kitchen a little bit. And what you're seeing is the 4 microphone beams and the 1 white line. And as I move around the kitchen, you'll see the white line track me fairly quickly, and then you'll see a colored beam that adjusts to me. And this is how we're tracking around and showing a visual representation of what the dynamic microphone beams are doing. I'm the only one talking here, so I'm getting all of the emphasis from the microphones. But you should be hearing slight but minimal change in my voice as I'm moving around from close to far away. And you'll see that this beam's tracking me around. One reason we did the video overlay in this is to provide quick, easy setup for the installer so that you can quickly dial in the room. You're not having to guess where somebody is sitting and where they're being picked up. And you'll see kind of as it senses a stronger presence, a seated location, it'll start to overlay beams to ensure that I'm getting the best pickup that I possibly can. So these are how the dynamic microphone beams are working. If I switch over to static, you'll see the 4 static beams. And with these, I can drag them around wherever I want to, or just remove them. So if I didn't want to have that static beam, I can do that as well. I'm going to come back to dynamic. And I'm going to add in an exclusion zone here. So this is that gray section that's going to pop up right in the middle. And what I'm going to do is just make this a little bit wider so that it's easier for me to place. And then as I'm speaking, I'm going to put the exclusion zone in front of my face, essentially, so it will block out some of what I'm picking up. And this is just a really easy way to minimize the audio that's coming through. So hopefully you heard some drop in level when I did that. I don't want to do that for too long because it's kind of boring as you're kind of listening to muffled audio. But that's just how we're tracking it. And what you also saw when I put that exclusion zone in front was that the beam that was really focused on me dropped away. And that's because it was being excluded from that area. These are the other two exclusion zones, so they're kind of at the front, as I mentioned before, and you can kind of bring those up and down to block audio from the front of the room if you wanted to have an entrance space, or just ensure that people weren't being picked up by video and, being picked up by the microphones, but not by the video. All right, so that is a quick view of the dynamic microphones. Now I'm going to switch this away here and come back over to our presentation, as well as start up my camera in this view again. All right, and just make sure we've got a nice clear view. All right, so I should be back to the presentation and to my camera.
Yep.
So you can see that. All right, excellent. Thank you, John. Just move this out of my way so I can see. All right. So that was the microphones and the setup software associated with the microphones on the VB1. Now I want to just talk a little bit about the camera. So the camera is a 4K digital pan tilt zoom camera. One of the questions that we often get being Bose is who makes your camera? And the answer is that we did. And there were two reasons for that. One was the performance that we felt was required or appropriate for this type of space. So we wanted to ensure that we really had the best field of view that we felt was appropriate for a huddle space, as well as the form factor. The VB1 is a very streamlined device in its look. Taking a third-party camera and attaching it to the video bar didn't allow us to get the same form factor that we desired. So we did develop the camera for the VB1. So again, I'm going to look at those two spaces, and this time I'm going to start with the huddle room. When we look, oops, I clicked too many times. I apologize. Let me go backwards here. There we go. So as we look at a huddle room, the things that happens is that we get very close to the display. We typically have a few rooms around the table, a few chairs around the table, and we need to sit fairly close. So in a typical huddle room, we want to be able to get about 12 inches away from the display. And with 115-degree horizontal, 123 degrees diagonal field of view, it allows this device to be used effectively in those huddle rooms. You're basically able to get as close to the video bar, stay in the camera, as you would comfortably be able to view the display, which again is about 12 inches away with a typical 3 to 4 foot wide huddle room table. So in the small space, the field of view is really the most important attribute. As we look at those medium-sized conference rooms, there's a couple of other attributes that become important. And one of those is auto-framing, right? We've got a room of 11 people, but maybe only 7 of them are in the room at any time. And so with auto-framing, we're doing group auto-framing based on body and facial recognition to ensure that anybody that's in the room is being seen by the camera. So it's going to track to the people in the room, again, with a focus on ensuring that everybody's in the room. If you get up and you walk to the back of the room and start writing or move around, the camera is going to expand or shrink its view to ensure that you're still in the camera shot. And with group auto tracking, what it's going to do is after somebody has basically settled, within 5 to 10 seconds, they'll shift over. So the camera's not going to be zooming in and out as people are entering or getting up and walking around the room. It's going to wait and settle on them. In addition to auto framing in a larger room, the other thing that we want to do is, again, ensure that even the remote side is having a good experience. And what we often see getting lost in these medium-sized rooms is that as somebody does get up and start writing on the whiteboard or the flip chart at the back of the room, the participant's not really able to see what's happening. And there's two aspects of that. One is zoom and how much zoom the camera has, but it's also the clarity of that zoom. So we do have a 5 times zoom with that digital zoom. But we've also ensured that we have really crisp video when you do that. Many devices, when you zoom in, will start to become very blurry. And so even though you have a tight zoom, you're not actually able to read the text. So our goal was to be able to have 1.5 to 2 inch text visible with the VB1 with that full zoom, which again is in that 15 to 20 foot range from to the back of the room where you might have a whiteboard. And really ensure that the remote participants are able to have a good experience as well. So on the camera side, it is a 4K digital pan tilt zoom camera with 123-degree field of view. All right, so next is audio playback. Being Bose, this is very important to us. It's one of those things that as we started looking at the space, people didn't really think much about. Audio playback was just kind of a given. It got loud enough, and so everybody was happy. We really wanted to take a look, though, at what was most important for the audio in this space and how to provide a better experience for people as they're listening to audio. So the first thing we did is we designed the loudspeaker system for a couple of things, and one was these racetrack drivers. Racetrack driver, you'll see in the image there, kind of looks like a squished woofer, and that provides a nice surface area for low-end reproduction, but maintains the form factor of a low-profile device like the VB1. One of the things that we've done a little bit differently with this is those racetrack drivers are actually yawed in a little bit. And this focuses the sound so that as you're hearing, as you're watching somebody present, you're also hearing them from the location of the video. And it has this effect by reducing the early reflections off of the sidewalls, which we often get from a video bar type device where they have flat drivers, and it becomes distracting and just pulls you away from the center. With the larger woofers in that racetrack driver design, we also have nice low-end reproduction. This gives you more natural audio sound from the far end, and it also enables the device to be used for those marketing videos and just for people that want to be able to kind of escape from the work environment and listen to music as they're working. And one of the things that we found with many users is that they were setting up dual systems. They had their conferencing system that they would use for phone calls, and then when they needed to do something that was more qualitative with materials that they were viewing, whether it was a marketing material or another type of video or music source, they had a secondary system in the room. And again, that kind of defeats the purpose of the video bar. So we wanted to ensure that we had nice, clean audio for those applications. The audio can be carried over the USB, but we also have a 3.5 millimeter input. So if you wanted to connect it for a TV playback, you could do that. And then it also has Bluetooth connectivity. The Bluetooth can either be used just to listen to music, again, for that escape, but it can also be used for a telephone call. And so if you're using the Bluetooth for a telephone call and connected to Zoom, as we are here, the VB1 will actually bridge those two devices together so that they're hearing each other naturally for both of the far ends as well as within the room. So that's the audio playback. The next thing that we really spent a lot of time looking at was the design. We wanted to make sure that this was appropriate for again, those grade A office spaces. The VB1 is just under 2 inches tall, and it's also under 4 inches deep. So with the various mounting applications, which I'll show you here, it's still ADA compliant. So with the VB1, we ship it with a table stand, which includes the camera adapter on the bottom. So you can either place it on a credenza or reutilize an existing wall mount for a camera. We also have a wall cleat, which also does ship with the VB1, so you can mount it directly to the wall. And then we have an option for a VESA mount adapter. So this will sandwich between the display and the VESA mount and allow the VB1 to be located either above or below the display. And it's, of course, adjustable so that you can work with any range of display sizes. In addition, it's not shown in this animation, but we also have a wall box adapter. So for either a 2-inch or 4-inch square box, there's a plate that mounts to the wall box with the cable pass through and ensures the cleanest, most low profile installation of the VB1, as well as just quick setup and adaptation to a wall box that's been installed. So that's the mounting accessories. Next is connectivity, right? And one of the big things that we wanted with the VB1 was to ensure a simplistic user interface. And so we came up with a one cable meeting solution, which is utilizing USB-C. And that's going to connect the laptop to the VB1 for a camera, microphone, speaker, and display playback. So the VB1 will connect to the display over an HDMI cable. And it can utilize either USB 2.0, we actually ship with a 5 meter 2.0 USB cable, or it can utilize up to USB 3.1. And this really just going to affect how much of compression is going to be applied to the video as you go between those two different USB types. We will, of course, also have recommended or tested USB extenders. So if you do need to go beyond the minimal distances that USB 3.1 will allow, we'll have some white lists for USB extenders. Of course, if you're doing an in-room PC for something like a Zoom room, you'll likely want to just connect the display directly out of the compute device to the monitor, and you would still connect the VB1 over that USB-C connection for the camera, microphone, and audio playback. So as we look at the back panel here, you will see that the connectivity is inset into the VB1 to ensure that we can maintain those ADA requirements. And in addition to the USB-C and the 3.5 millimeter audio in that we looked at earlier, we do have a control input, and this is to provide for spaces that emergency mute is required. So this would connect to your emergency system and mute the loudspeakers when there was an emergency event, as code requires in some locations. We, of course, have that HDMI out that I mentioned, and then we also have a wired network connection. And the wired network connection is to enable a remote management software that I'll show you in just a second here. Lastly, on connectivity, so I mentioned we have Bluetooth. The Bluetooth can be used for music playback. It can be used for a two-way telephone call, and then it can also be used for control. So there's an iOS or Google app, which will mimic the remote control. So you'll be able to control the camera, microphone mute, as well as just the loudspeaker volume. So a really simplistic user interface. And then, of course, that one cable meeting using the USB-C connection. So last thing I wanted to show you guys on the VB1 is the remote management software. So we have three ways of controlling the VB1. One is with that Bluetooth app, as well as the IR remote, which ships with the VB1. Another is the Bose Work configuration software, and that's the software that I showed you as we were taking a look at the microphone setup. And that's a point-to-point connection. So you'd have to be connected via USB-C, so essentially in the same room in order to utilize that software. That will give you capabilities through a password-protected admin section, a full setup of the VB1. And then the third option that we have is a Bose Work management software. And I'm going to show that on my screen here. So if you give me just a second, I'll switch over to that. And this software, which you should be seeing now, is designed to be downloaded and controlled on the enterprise. So you're seeing a version of it that's running locally in my house right now. So I just have two VB1s set up. John, if you can just give me a nod. I'm not seeing the green box, just to make sure you're seeing that software.
Yep.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So this software will allow you to manage all of the VB1s in one view that you may have on our network. It will allow you to set the global passwords. You can easily sort through the devices that you have based on floor, building, room, firmware, however you'd like to see the VB1s. And then it will allow you to do things like access the configuration. So you can do a complete setup through the software. One of the important things being you can limit the user access. So if you have a customer that doesn't want Bluetooth to be enabled or doesn't want auto-framing to be enabled, you can easily remove those from the list of options that a user would have access to. And then you can do all of the other configuration, whether it's video or audio that you may need to do in configuring the VB1. You'll notice in this software, you don't have the camera view. That's for security reasons. We don't want the camera to be broadcast across the network, of course, bandwidth as well, but primarily for security. This is data only that's coming across through this device. When you do a setup, you can also upload and download profiles. So a profile, if you have one room that's typical of 30, you set it up once, and then you can upload it to all of the other rooms at the same time. And then lastly, on this software, we can do, oops, I want to cancel that. Sorry about that, wrong button. So you can also do scheduled firmware updates. So if you have an IT director that wants to manage all the devices at the same time, they can load up a new firmware, schedule a date and a time that they would like to have that go. So if we wanted to have that firmware update in the middle of the night, so we don't take it down any of the rooms, they can do that and then schedule that firmware update for a future time. So this software is really designed to provide simplistic control across an entire enterprise and allow all the VB1s to be managed in a simplistic manner. So with that, I am going to switch back over here to the presentation view, which you should be seeing now. And that is the VB1. So again, it's an all-in-one device, which is really designed to be simplistic to install, operate, and provide kind of a best-in-class experience for those huddle rooms to medium-sized conference rooms. And now, John, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk about the 700 UCs.
Perfect. Thank you, Paxton. So as mentioned, there are three core product areas for work, and now we're at the mobile and desktop user. So for those folks, we have the Bose noise canceling 700 UC headphones. And if you can go to the next slide. So basically, these are really business class, state-of-the-art headphones that allow you to turn any space into a meeting space. So going back to that graphic that was there at the beginning, you could have somebody who's working in an open office, being on a conference call. They might run out and go to a coffee shop. They might be in their car. They might be at an airport. So if you have somebody who is that mobile worker, very transitional, these headphones allow you to quickly and comfortably turn any of those environments into a quiet meeting space. So what's in this that helps that happen? So within the 700, there's an adaptive 4-microphone system that isolates your voice from surrounding noise. So what that enables is for you to go into a noisy space, a coffee shop, an airport, and to the listener on the far end, really what they're hearing is your voice without all of the background noise. So it improves communication, it improves clarity, and eliminates the distraction of riding the remote, turning yourself off and on in a meeting, and then not being able to be heard. So this is really game-changing in this set of headphones. And the other thing to take note of is that it's achieving this without a boom microphone. So again, it's an adaptive microphone system. So it's able to really isolate on your voice without the distraction of, a boom mic in front of you. So again, really game-changing technology there. You can also personalize your work environment with 11 levels of noise cancellation. So let's say you go back into that open office environment and you want to have a little more awareness of what's going on around you. You can change the noise cancellation such that it's kind of reducing the noise, but you're still aware of conversations and people, so you can stay connected in that environment. And also in terms of connection, one thing unique about this product is it does ship with a Bluetooth dongle. So what that does is it provides a dedicated wireless connection to your computer. That's a couple things. When you walk up and turn it on, it is a quick connection. There's no fumbling around and selecting the product. It connects right away. Secondly, when you're on one of these cloud platforms, in the case of Microsoft Teams, when you're connected, there's a blue LED that's showing you you're connected. If you're on mute, it glows red, so that it is giving you visual confirmation of your status while on a Teams call. And you can see from this slide, we have certification from Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Google. So you can specify this with confidence to corporate users that it is going to work with the typical technologies that they use on a day-to-day basis. Finally, it does offer 20 hours of wireless battery life, and ultimately that makes it, a headphone that you can use all day. So this is another opportunity for you when you look at the workspace. Again, this is that mobile user. It could be an executive who is just simply saying, I want all my sales team to have these to ensure that we can have better collaboration on the calls. So if you pull back and think of Bose Work, it allows you to now look at that workspace and be able to do a very formal conference room, to the broad array of Huddle and medium-sized meeting rooms, as well as that mobile worker. So in many cases, that may be what you do. That as a reseller, as an integrator, that's your work. But as well, I know not all resellers focus on those areas. You may be doing AV, you may be doing structured cable, but I hear this very frequently that many times an integrator's in a building and they get asked, can you do my huddle rooms? Can you do my meeting rooms? And in the past, you might not have had the products or the products with the ease of setup to be able to capitalize on those opportunities. But I think you see that, especially with the VB1 solution and the 700 UC, you can start those conversations and potentially add to your share of that building and that job. And then, as mentioned earlier, with the ES1 and DS4 solution, we're happy to help you. Many of those larger conference rooms are very unique in what they want to have happen. So at that point, it would be a good opportunity just to pick up the phone and consult with your ADI Pro Sales rep on what they'd recommend there. I'll end with this, and then we're going to open up with Q&A. One of your best resources as you're learning this is pro.bose.com. Again, there's product information, but if you go under the resources tab, there is a learning center. If you get registered for that, there are lots of videos on each of these products. If you just want to take a refresh on any of the features or learn additionally about more of what Bose Pro does, it's a great place to get connected to. So with that, I know we're kind of up on time here, so we'll open it up for questions, Sean, and see if there's anything out there.
Okay, I just put a note in the chat box since everyone's in listen-only mode. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. And while you're thinking about any questions you might have, I'll just ask a couple of questions. One, Paxton, really more for you on the remote management software. Was there any limitations to how many VB1s you could have in an environment, in a system, what have you, and have that remote management capability?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yep. So our current testing is 500 devices that we've tested up to. So that's within a single session. So you could segment that, of course. There's also an API that will allow the VB1 to be integrated into a building management software or typical AV management software. So if you did need to integrate it into your solution, you could do that. Or if you need to go beyond the 500 devices that we can allow in a single session.
Got it. Okay. John, I thought maybe it'd be good just to kind of cover, at least at a high level, the project registration program.
Yeah, good, very, very good point. So as well, on pro.bose.com under resources, there is a partner portal. You can basically click into the partner portal and get registered. And as you're out selling VB1 and 700 UC, we do offer a project registration through that partner portal. So as you interface with that, just some common questions are: how many do I need to basically register to qualify? So with the VB1, it starts at 10 units, and with the 700 UC, it starts with 25 units. So I'd encourage you to get registered and learn more. As well, there are some videos in the Learning Center on the partner portal and how to register and how that works. So again, pro.bose.com is a great place to familiarize yourself with and explore a little bit more about what we offer.
Absolutely. And it's quite honestly, if somebody wanted to deploy VB1s on a campus, you could get to 10, in no time, or if they've got a sales team, 25 or stronger, or just an employee team of some, that they'd like to have those, UC 700s. I mean, it's not going to be uncommon. And you've probably seen it already with the headphones since they're shipping. And some of those larger opportunities do come along, fairly often. So